Hello and welcome. I'm Liz Booker, literary aviatrix, and today I'm so excited to talk to two guests, both of whom are former Army Apache helicopter pilots, and they are the author and illustrator of a fun new picture book, Be Something Epic. Fewer than 10% of pilots and aircraft mechanics are women. These are their stories of tenacity, adventure, and courage. Stories with the power to inspire, heal, and connect. Welcome to the Literary Aviatrix community, where we leverage the power of story to build and celebrate our community and inspire the next generation of aviation. Laura Pangallo Fryar and Morgan Samuels, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk with you. And about this book and about your careers. So excited to talk to a couple of fellow helicopter pilots. This is so fun. So why don't we start off with introducing the book? I have a copy of it, but it's packed in my suitcase in my car because I'm in the midst of Girls in Aviation Days. And I
Yes.
take the books and I put them all out and I talk about women in aviation history at these events. So yours is packed away in my car. So tell us all about.
Yeah, so it's Be Something Epic, written by me, illustrated by Morgan, and the illustrations are actually of my daughter, which is really cool. And it is a book that I decided to write a couple of years ago and started, taking notes on my phone because I wanted to read my daughter something who she was about 2 at the time. I wanted to read her something that I thought was meaningful and could start the wheels turning in her brain about like, hey, what do I actually want to be? And what can I be doing kind of now as a 2 year old? Because everything, matters and gets you on the right path. What can I be doing now to set me on the right path? And so Be Something Epic just kind of was written on my phone. And one day I knew, I wanted to make it happen. And I knew Morgan has a crazy talent for watercolor. So I just shot her a note and said, hey, Morgan, I know we come from a crazy background, but what do you think about writing a children's book with me? And after we were done laughing and sending each other pictures that we could use on the back of the cover from our years together that would probably not be appropriate for a children's book, we decided to just go for it. And we did it.
That's so cool, and I can't wait to hear so much more about how you know each other and all of that. Would you read the book to us? That would
Yeah,
be fun.
absolutely.
Maybe people can get a sense of it.
When I grow up, I want to be something epic. Maybe I'll be an astronaut, exploring never before seen places, doing handstands on the moon, and talking to Martians. If I'm going to be an astronaut, I'll have to pay attention in school. Maybe I'll be a teacher, reading my favorite books to the class, teaching fun games, and helping people learn. If I'm going to be a teacher, I'll have to be very patient and kind. Maybe I'll be a dentist, brushing teeth until they sparkle, handing out yummy toothpaste, and making people smile. If I'm going to be a dentist, I'll have to brush my teeth a lot, and Mama says I need to get rid of my pacifier. Maybe I'll rescue those in need, fighting fires, getting people to the doctor fast, or driving my police car with the flashing lights and sirens on. If I'm going to rescue those in need, I'll have to practice being a good helper. Maybe I'll be a defender of freedom, flying a helicopter, fast jet, or plane. I could drive a big tank and paint my face with tiger stripes. If I'm going to be a defender of freedom, I'll have to be very brave. I'm not sure what I want to be yet, but if I pay attention in school, am patient and kind, brush my teeth, take my pacifier out, practice helping, and am brave, I can be anything I want. And I want to be something epic.
Oh, I love it. Yay. What a great book. You've got so many you have a mixture of things that we can be when we grow up. I love that. They're all very different, but some of them we don't see girls being encouraged to do as often. And so I love that mixture that shows things that, if a small person or even an adult comes from an environment where maybe they're not exposed to women in those other fields that are predominantly male, it's not such a huge leap because they can kind of ease into it with maybe they've seen a dentist who's a woman before. And so I just absolutely love it so much. I want to hear all about how you got there. But first, I'm so excited to talk about helicopters and how you guys met and all of that stuff. So I would love to hear first and foremost, because I know that you're both Apache helicopter pilots, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you worked together and that's how you know each other. So let's start with what led you to aviation and to the Army. So, Laura, how about you go first?
Okay. I went to college at the University of Alabama, roll tide, and was convinced that I was going to be a cop or in the FBI. Like I just wanted kind of law enforcement as my life path. And so I was in criminal justice and psychology halfway through college, summer before my junior year started, and I was out on a run, and there was a rock climbing wall that was set up on the quad, and I was like, oh, I got nothing to do, kind of bored on this run, so let me do that. So I did this rock wall, and it was hosted by ROTC. And when I got done, winning my little competition with whoever was to my right and left, they were like, hey, have you ever thought of ROTC? Nope, don't even really know what it is. And then just had kind of a conversation and was like, you know what, maybe that sounds kind of cool. And so I joke it was divine intervention that got me through the door of ROTC. And then there I was, 2 years left. And they're like, well, what do you want to do in the Army? Well, I never really thought about being in the Army. What do you got? And so I read all the options and I was like, well, I'm kind of on this path randomly. What was I never going to do? Saw aviation, kind of asked, like, what do I have to do that? They're like, well, you just have to take an extra test. So I went to the bookstore, got aviation, flight aptitude test for dummies, sifted through that a little bit, took the test, and there I was, an Army aviator 2 years later, going to Fort Rucker. And I mean, I am not kidding you when I say I didn't even know the advanced platforms that the Army had when I got there. And we had, when we were in primary, we were learning how to fly on the AH-64. They had like an aviation day where they lined up all like the advanced airframes. You can go out there, get a corn dog and see all the aircraft. And I walked past like the Black Hawk. I was like, that's cool. I walked past the Chinook and was like, dang, like stood there for a while walking in and out. And I was like, that's cool. And then the Apache was the last one. And I mean, it was definitely love at first sight. And I was like, I don't know what it is, but I have to fly it. And then 20 years later, here I am.
That's so great. Oh my gosh. How about you, Morgan?
Mine's a little different. First off, hi.
Hi.
So I always wanted to be in the Army when I was a little girl.
Wow.
It was something I always wanted to do. Growing up in San Francisco, I wasn't really surrounded by a lot of people that I knew in the military. My grandfather had fought in World War II, but it was something I was always fascinated with. And when I was in high school, well, I always wanted to, and I knew I wanted to be a pilot I wanted to be a fighter pilot. That was kind of like the dream, Top Gun, everything. And then when I was in high school, there was a movie came out with Meg Ryan where she was a helicopter pilot in the military. It was Courage Under Fire.
Right.
It was something I'd never thought of before, flying helicopters for the military. And so I kind of decided that that's what I wanted to do. But my parents, who always support me, I was looking at enlisting and they said, if you want to go in the military, let's, get you to college first. And so I ended up starting off in Santa Barbara for a year, and I went and did a couple of study abroads. I was living abroad in Germany at the time of 9/11.
Oh,
And
wow.
I kind of, at that point, realized that I was ready to go back and join the military, but I hadn't finished college yet. So I went back to the States. I signed up for an ROTC program at the University of San Francisco. And I went through and finished my ROTC, and I took the aptitude test as well, studied for that with the goal of becoming a pilot. And I was probably the happiest day of my life is when they read my name, where I was going, and then I got, aviation, and I did a little dance and went to flight school wanting to be a Black Hawk pilot. And then kind of like Laura, they show you all the different aircraft, they show videos, and the biggest video that pumps you up is the Apache video. Nobody really cares about, bringing people and mail and whatnot. It was the Apache video that really kind of hit. And I was like, that's what I want to do. That seems pretty sweet. So that was kind of my road. And then Laura and I met, I think like the first day or maybe
Yeah.
like a month into flight school.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So
I
you
think we
guys
actually
went through flight
became
school
like,
together. How many women were in your cadre or
I don't remember any in cadre.
No.
There was a handful of us. I would say So in that, the 2005, that's our year group at flight school at that time, I'd say there's probably at least 10 of us
Yeah.
Okay.
going through in different classes, different platforms.
But I do remember looking up just the statistics of female Apache pilots when we started off. And I think there was in the entire U.S. Army 54
Yeah.
when we went through, so, or somewhere around there. There really weren't a lot of us, but
Yeah.
No. And then our first assignment together, I would say we didn't like solidify our friendship in flight school, because I quickly found out that because I randomly fell into this and never thought about it, that I was way out of my league. And so I spent most of my time in flight school, like in the library studying, trying to survive.
Good for you. Yeah.
But we both got assigned to Korea, to the 2nd Combat Aviation Brigade as our first assignment. And I would say there we are now lifelong friends for sure.
Oh, that's
yes.
awesome.
And we lucked out because we had Korea together, and then we both were stationed in Germany together.
Yep, we
So,
had our company commands at the same time,
yeah.
same place. So we've known each other for, gosh,
a long time.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So tell me, I mean, if you lined all the Army helicopters up for me, I would pick the Apache. So tell me what's special, or for anybody who doesn't know, tell us some of the cool, fun facts about an Apache.
So it's the Army's premier attack platform, really only attack platform if we're talking aerial. And so I would say, like, not to throw hate, I would say every aircraft is awesome in the Army. So your Black Hawk is your air assault, right? They're going to get the people to the place to deliver justice. The Chinook, same thing, more people, heavier equipment. They're gonna get it there. But then the Apache is always there. We're always overhead. I mean, my mission is to support the ground force commander, and I can't even, articulate how passionate I am about delivering justice for the ground force commander. But it's got rockets, it's got missiles, it's got 30 millimeter. I always joke that I want to be in the platform that can shoot back. But it's advanced. It demands respect, I would say, to be a pilot of the Apache. You can't just jump in there and think it's going to be easy. A lot of things you have to know. It's very accurate. And it's just, I don't know, I just have a lot of pride. And as I kind of end my Army career here in the next year, like, I'll be driving down the road, and if I see an Apache, like, it just invokes something in me to be a part of that community and that platform.
Morgan, what do you have?
To kind of play off that as well, I spoke to a lot of former military that were on the ground, and they might be in a sticky situation, and the second they see the Apache coming in, they know that they're going to be okay. And I think that's just a really wonderful feeling, to know that you're making a difference in a battle, and that you are there to protect and serve, and that they're looking to you. And I think that's just something that you don't get in another platform. I mean, medevac is also another wonderful thing that the Black Hawk does, but bringing justice, as Laura said, it's just, there's nothing like that. And to know that your presence is going to make a difference to those that are on the ground.
Yeah. It sounds very similar to a conversation I had with a Kiowa Warrior helicopter pilot as well. So how do you feel about that, and what's your relationship with the?
I love that platform. And we used to do, called it pink teams on deployments, where the Kiowa would be down low doing recon for us, and then we would be attack up higher. I love that platform. I mean, there's something to be said about flying low and fast enough with your M4 out the door. It's just pretty badass.
Doors
honestly.
off.
Yeah, doors off.
It's sad they don't have that platform anymore.
Yeah, I love that combo. Yeah. The pink teams were an awesome capability. And then, the Army went in a different direction, and now we have kind of UAS as our recon out in front of us.
Okay.
But I miss the Kiowa Warrior platform. Like, the Kiowa Apache combo was pretty lethal. Yep. I think when you get into like air defense stuff, that's kind of how it got written out of the script. Just couldn't really, didn't have the systems to defend and to upgrade it. I guess, it wasn't cost effective, so they went another route, but it was pretty lethal to have Kiowas and Apaches together out there.
That's interesting. And I'm going to ask some dumb questions, I'm sure. But so are all helicopters in the Army considered part of the CAV?
No. That's just, honestly, that's attack reconnaissance squadrons are now the CAV units, and it's just the unit designation. But they have all the history and lineage, right? So they wear their Stetsons and their spurs.
And is an Apache is not cavalry?
Not always.
There are
There are
cav
some, but
units.
not
Yeah,
always.
so they'll have one cavalry squadron, which is like the recon squadron, and they'll have the UAS platforms with them, and then they'll have your attack battalion, which is just kind of Apache pure.
Mhm.
So your ARS, your attack recon squadrons, bring the reconnaissance to the Army in the form of UAS now.
Okay. And so what kind of missions were you on in Korea, as much as you're allowed to
You
talk
are
about?
going to love our mission in Korea. So our mission in Korea was to interdict North Korean soft vessels off the coast.
Oh,
So
my
we
job.
would, yeah. Actually, the most terrified I have ever been in an aircraft is we would fly at night under the infrared, and you couldn't be higher than 100 feet off the deck. We would go out there and we would interdict, and then we would come back. But man, being 100 feet off the ocean floor with the shore not in sight, any aircraft noise, just what am I gonna do? But yeah, that's what our mission was, which was pretty cool. So we did that. I think we were over there for 2 years the
We
first
were
time.
there
I
two
went back a
years.
couple years later, but yeah, that was our primary mission, was over water attack on the
It's so
Korean.
funny. I've told this story a few times on my podcasts, but so a third of the Coast Guard's pilots come from other services, and
Mhm.
most of the helicopter pilots come from the Army. And so I flew with lots of former helicopter pilots, and I had this one sort of duty day rotation with all these flights with a brand new Army like retread. He had just joined the Coast Guard. He had just gone through the aircraft training, and we were assigned a mission to go up into the mountains north of San Francisco on a salmon spawning like
Interesting.
survey. And so we're flying in a valley, right?
Mhm.
To get up this river and look down. And I gave him the controls, and I'm like, yo, man, like, what are you doing? We're too close to the mountain. Like,
Yeah,
get away, get away. Like, I'm terrified. It's going to come out, reach out and bite me. And then the next day we're doing our normal hoist training over the water, and it was daytime. So during the day, to deploy the rescue swimmer without using the cable, we have to get the aircraft under 15 feet above the water. And this guy is like white knuckled,
Yeah.
holding onto his seat. He was like, is this normal? And I'm like, yeah, man, this is what we do.
Well, it's funny because I mean, and one of the things that we did in Korea that Laura mentioned is, doing stuff over water, but it wasn't something on a normal basis that we did in the Army. We flew
Right.
low,
No.
we flew nap of the earth, we flew low
Right.
level, we weren't over the water. And
Nope.
so it was terrifying. They put you
Yeah.
through Dunker and they give you your little Heeds bottle and they're like,
You're good to go.
may the odds be forever be in your favor. And they
Yeah.
send you
Oh,
out
man.
over the water and you're like, what now? Where are my references? We're
Yeah.
used to having, our maps out, our terrain, and using that
Nothing.
to guide and to navigate. And now you're just in the middle of the ocean and there's nothing but this vast, just water, sky, and nothing else. And
Yep.
it's humbling. It really is humbling out there.
I remember reading, memorizing the ditching over water EPs like in flight school, and you memorize them, right? And you're like, whatever, yeah, you just know it. You just write it down. Always in the back of your mind.
Memorizing.
You got over there, and you actually like think about what those words are saying. You're like, you want me to? I'm not. No, that's not
You
how
want
that's
to do
going.
what?
You want me to
Let
what?
the one pilot get out and then fly
Hover a safe distance
and then
away? No,
let it
not
down?
happening.
Like what?
That's
We're
so
trying to
funny.
get back to shore on this thing.
Like hearing you guys talk about this, I chair flew that every time I got in the aircraft at night. I
Yeah.
chair flew that egress. I didn't really do it as much during the day. Maybe I got complacent, but every single time I got in the plane at night, I just had like a 3-second play in my head of how all that was going to look. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, when we were in the Apache, it's a twin engine aircraft. So you lose an engine, you still have another one to kind of get you to a safe spot. And when I got out of the Army, one of my first jobs, I actually flew to the oil rigs. And I was flying, a Bell 407, single engine, single pilot, 200 nautical miles offshore.
No thanks.
Landing on platforms. And I'm like laughing to myself, like, how was I so afraid in the Apache when I had, 2 engines, 2 pilots? I had a Heeds bottle. I mean, in the Gulf of Mexico, they didn't even give us a Heeds bottle. You had floats on your skids, you had a vest, and it was like, good luck.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, thank you. That's not.
Yeah, no, I did that for a year. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I mean, aviation is dangerous anyways, and then you add water to it. And that's your every
Just
day.
add water.
Every day for you.
See, for me, it's just add power lines. It's like, no, thank you. I just want to get away from everything.
Yes. Don't
Yeah.
fly in Korea. Those things pop up,
I bet.
Overnight. Yep.
So that was Korea. And then what about Germany? What did you guys do there?
That was our company commands. So I did 2 company commands there. I did a maintenance company command. So I went to the test pilot course before I went out there. And then I took the maintenance company command. So that command is responsible for the maintenance and upkeeping of the 24 Apaches that are in the battalion.
Back it up. I want to hear about test pilot training. Tell me.
Yeah, so I was in the captain's career course, which is like the military education you go to when you make captain so that you can be qualified to go take a company command.
Mm-hmm.
And then the human resources command come down and says, hey, here's all the places you can go where you want to go. And I said, I want to go to Germany. And they're like, sweet, you can go to Germany, but you have to be a test pilot to go there because the commander needs a Delta company commander. And I was like, man, if I'm honest, like the captain's career course is a bunch of captains and a bunch of bars. So I wasn't like in the right mindset for like studying. But I wanted to go to Germany, so that was my only option. So I dug deep again and ended up in the test pilot course, finished that, which was, pretty awesome to be able to do. That is not an easy course. And I would not say that I was systems oriented when I started that course. So that was pretty good. And actually Morgan, she was in the captain's career course, like a class behind me. So she was there. We celebrated, we went out to a bar and celebrated me graduating that thing.
We did.
Yeah, so then went over to Germany, took that command. The unit, I met them. They were already deployed. They were in Balad. Met them there. We jumped into Mosul, finished out my company command there, brought everybody back, and then took Charlie Company, which is a line company. So that was, the employment essentially of 8 Apaches. Did that, deployed to Afghanistan with that company. And then closed out that command in Afghanistan in Sharana, and then PCS to Human Resources Command in Fort Knox.
Wow. Okay, and you, Morgan?
Not as exciting. We were in the career course around the same time, and then I got hurt while we were there. So I tore my ACL, fractured my tibia and fibula. So I was kind of extended in Alabama for an additional few months while I recovered from that surgery, and then met Laura back in Germany when they were coming back from Iraq. So I did miss that deployment. I worked in operations at the brigade level for a little while during my recovery, and then I took command down at the same base that she was at in Illesheim. I did take an HHC command, and then just did my flying there. And then I deployed a little bit after them. We were in 2 different battalions. So her battalion deployed, and then I went to a different job, and then I deployed to Afghanistan with that. So we kind of missed each other in Afghanistan, but came back. You were still, I believe, in Germany when I got back from my deployment.
Yeah.
And then I started my paperwork to get out at that point. And so I only did 10 years.
Okay.
Whereas actually continuing and retiring. So,
well, I want to hear more about that from Laura. But so Morgan, when you joined, was it your goal only to do a short stint, or?
No, my goal was to make a career out of the military. It was, my dream, but I wasn't flying as much as I would have liked as an officer. After my command, I went to a staff job. So I really wanted to keep flying. I did actually try twice to drop my warrant officer packet just so I could, leave the officer side and get some more flying in.
Is that a thing?
You can. It was back then, they were so short on warrant officers that they were allowing it. And then it started to slow down. And kind of around the times that I was putting my packet in, they just didn't have the officers. And so when it got denied, I decided to put in my paperwork just to get out because I wanted to continue flying on the civilian side.
Would you get paid as a warrant then? Oh,
Yeah.
So you would take a pay cut, a rank cut?
Yeah.
Just
resign your commission to be a warrant.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a quality of life person, though. Not a pay person. So I wanted the quality of life more than, anything else. So
You should have called me in the Coast Guard.
I should have.
We'd have kept you flying for a few more years at least.
Right. You know what, though? It worked out. I'm still flying on the civilian side.
Yeah. So what are you doing now?
I fly for the airlines.
Okay, so
So
you are a fixed wing
yes. So after I got
convert
out,
trader. Sorry.
I am a trader. I will admit it. I will be the first to admit it. It was a very hard decision to make. When I got out, I went back to flight school because I hadn't flown in a while. And
Yeah.
so I did my civilian CFI double I, my flight instructor. And then I went and flew in the Gulf of Mexico for a little while. And then I got on with this amazing organization called RTAG. It's a aviation charity that helps. It started off helping military helicopter pilots transition to the airlines, and so I'm actually about to go work a convention for them coming up in October. Fabulous organization if anyone wants to stay in aviation past their military career. But I got with them, and at that time they were hiring for the regionals. So I went over and I did all
Well,
my
you
airplane.
did tours at Mount
Did
Rushmore.
tours at Mount Rushmore for a summer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
and
got
then
the most fun story.
yeah, it was really neat. It was beautiful flying out there, but I was only there for about 2.5 months.
Yeah.
But it was really beautiful. And then did the golf, and then I did my fixed wing training. That was a hard choice to make, but on the civilian side, there's just a lot more opportunities for
Yeah.
airplane pilots than there are for helicopter pilots.
Right.
And so I did that. I flew cargo for a while for an ACMI for Amazon, and then I'm not sure I'm allowed to say I'm at a major airline now,
That's cool.
flying 737.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're the first person I've talked to. I've heard of RTAG after I
Mhm.
retired, and you're the first person I've talked to who took advantage of that organization. So
Fabulous organization.
thanks for giving the plug for that. That's
Yes.
really cool.
And I can definitely, it really is a wonderful organization. They're not just helping military pilots now; they're also doing helping out civilian pilots as well. That want to, but it does do a lot for transition. Not even just helicopter pilots; they're helping out, just regular soldiers that decide they want to go into aviation.
Oh,
So
cool. Very good to know. That's
yeah.
cool. And so, Laura, you stuck it out. You're still in. Tell us about that journey.
I am. So, finished up in Korea or Germany, went to HRC. It's like assigning aviation captains. I did like as an
You're the
assignment
detailer?
officer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was one too, so
Yes.
in the Coast Guard.
Hated or loved, depending on who you talk to.
Yep. I lost a quarter of my friends every year. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you know the drill. Then I got kicked back out. I went and taught the captain's career course for a year, and then I went to the majors military education course, and then I went back to Korea as a field grade officer. But when I say like I love attack aviation, like I'm super geek. I'm a doctor nerd. I love employing attack helicopters. So I had a great time there, and that's kind of where my journey as an author began because I was the battalion operations officer and executive officer, and then was chosen to be the brigade operations officer, which is like a dream. Now I get to employ like every aircraft the Army has. And I love Korea because you're forward deployed. So the things that you're not really doing CONUS, you're getting to do there because you got to be ready. So I was having a great time, went and got a flight physical like you do because you're a good aviator. And I'm on my way back to the office, and my flight doc calls me and is like, Laura, you're pregnant.
Surprise.
Say, what? So not ideal, right? Brigade S3 pregnant.
I have a similar story to that too.
I was convinced that there wasn't anything that I couldn't do pregnant. So, I got riding around in Humvees, Kevlars, my gear not fastened because I'm huge. I joke that like my daughter ate more MREs than most lieutenants before she was even born. And so stubborn that I was getting ready for the 2nd Infantry Division mill ball when my water broke, and it was not ideal. And I actually took a Army medevac helicopter ride to go have my daughter. Yeah. So I was not prepared at all to be a mom. I will say that. Like I didn't read the books. Like I was still doing attack aviation things because I was so convinced that that's what my life path was. And I do tell people that when I heard her cry, like I had a functional shift in my person, like change of mission kind of thing. But so there I was, right? Still the Brigade 3. I spent an absurd amount of money on a Korean nanny so that I could work from 5 in the morning until midnight to close it out. but it was kind of during my journey as a mom. You know, I don't have any nieces and nephews. Like, I've never really read kids' books. So, you know, that's kind of how it started, was I'm getting these books to read to her. I'm like, what is this garbage? What am I reading? Like, is there no book out there to like empower tiny humans? And I probably have like way too high expectations of what like my 2-year-old can achieve, but I
Yeah.
just didn't find what I was looking for. And that kind of sparked the interest. The first book I read that kind of like shot me into this, and I'm blanking on the author, was I Like Myself. And it's a rhyming book about liking yourself just the way you are and not caring what other people say. And I was like, this is what I'm saying. This is a good message. I like this message. And it kind of sparked me to, so I was just writing books on my phone, and it just all kind of came together. Honestly, I just wanted to do it. Me and Morgan we're not authors, I would say. We come from a crazy
You are
background.
now.
Yeah. So we kind of just, we tried to do it all kinds of different ways. I think probably every author will tell you like, oh, I have regrets and how I did it. And if I would have known more, I would have done it differently. So we struggled through our hybrid publishing journey together, but it's out now. And we want to make it bigger, right? We want to be something epic aviation, and just all the different ways that you can be an aviator and what careers you can have. My husband is a retired Air Force officer and now a cattle rancher. So I want to be something epic, agriculture or farming, all the things. So we want to keep it going, but the journey definitely started from me being like the most unlikely of mothers, and just kind of reading children's book for the first time, thinking like, well, we can do better for our kids.
That's so great. So you wrapped up that tour, you were a mom, and so like where are you in your career journey now?
Yep. So I finished up my time in Korea. Then I went to NORTHCOM in Colorado Springs, Peterson Air Force Base, to get my joint credit. And then I competed for battalion command, simultaneously got picked up to be a professor of military science at Auburn University. And so I deferred my battalion command to go to Auburn just to kind of try that out, which is kind of funny, right? When I got the news Auburn, I spit my coffee out on my screen because I started at Alabama.
Yeah.
So I deferred command to go there for a year. And when I got there, honestly, I just found the job to be so rewarding. The cadets, they just motivate me every day. They're not jaded. They're just hungry to be in the Army. And they love the Army as much as I love the Army. And I found that to be enough, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And my daughter is about to turn 6 in October, and my now son is about to turn 4 in October. So it just seemed like, for me, the right choice was to decline command and ride it out in ROTC. So I'm currently the professor of military science at Auburn University. And this is my 3rd academic year that I'm in, and I will retire December of 2025. So,
Woohoo! As an 05?
You hear me. Yep, as an 05.
You go, girl. That's awesome. Good for
So
you.
I'm either super excited about it, or if you catch me another day, I'm crying in my car. Because
Yeah, it's okay. You're going to be okay.
The transition.
You're going to be okay. I promise.
Yeah. But that's where I'm at.
That's so great. What a great story. And so much about, having children on active duty at times when you weren't planning to. And even I have 3 children. One of them was planned. And even when it was planned, it was still a challenge.
Oh yeah.
I was flying operationally when I had her. So like, I get it. And I think that'll resonate with a lot of people, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's definitely I don't know, it's just, you got to navigate it, and everybody's so unique in what resources they have, if they have family close. Just the cost of childcare is definitely more than you make in some instances.
Oh yeah, I spent more than I was making for quite a while. Yeah, for sure. And so you talked about having the inception of this idea. And so talk about how you decided to team up on this, what that conversation looked like.
So Morgan, she kind of downplayed her journey. She's like the fearless person in this relationship, honestly. Like, I stayed the grind. Like, I was never going to get out of the Army. And Morgan was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do something else. What I think is terrifying, especially at the 10-year mark.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So then, she's flying helicopter tours at Mount Rushmore. She's flying to the oil rig. She was actually going to join the Australian military at one point. She's She also speaks multiple languages. Like she's fluent in German. She's just an incredible talent. But on this journey, at one point, she
Speaking
was
me up.
traveling the United States in a van. And she was selling art. She decided, oh, I want to be an artist. So she was doing watercolor, amazing watercolors. And like she would draw the aircraft and paint it. And it was like too standard on the aircraft. So I'd actually commissioned her to do some paintings for me that I have hanging in my house of horses and, she, all kinds of stuff. So I knew that she had this talent. We always stay in touch. And so I had finished the words and kind of, as every Army officer will, put it into PowerPoint to make it real. And then I just called her up and was like, Morgan, do you think you want to like do this with me? Do you want to draw these pictures? And she was like, yeah, send me. I said, I want it to be Patton. That's another thing. My daughter's name is General Patton because she was supposed to be born on Patton's birthday, but she wasn't. But so I named her Patton.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I just started sending her pictures of Patton, and she would put them into watercolors, and I started adding them to the PowerPoint. And before you knew it, we had a full PowerPoint deck, and it looked awesome. And yeah, so I don't know. I tried to do as much research as I could. I would CC her when I was, pitching all the queries because we were going to be in Penguin books. I was sure of it. And then after about a year of that, just not hearing anything or, the cookie cutter, like thanks, but no thanks. We started just kind of doing interviews with hybrid publishers. We went with Dorrance, which I don't know that I would recommend to anybody that I liked. But that's who
maybe people we don't like.
Yeah, we don't like. Yeah, and we did it, and we finally got our copies last year. And it has been so well received. I don't think we actually had a plan for marketing, so we're just kind of like flying blind and figuring out as we go. But we meet awesome people like yourself, and friends of friends of friends are pushing it out places. And we're in aviation museums now, and
oh, good.
We've more than made back our investment, which I think was the goal.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't see me like I was seething here when you were talking about the traditional companies rejecting you. Like it just infuriates me, especially with a book like this that has broad appeal. I get it if like not everybody's crusade is specifically about aviation, even though ours is. But then, come on, a book like yours, it's much broader than that, and like. What are they doing? Because like, what are they publishing?
Well, I think that was one of the issues that we weren't really prepared for, is that we thought we had this amazing product, and it's really, I think, overwhelming at first, not even knowing where to begin. I mean, there's such a process to publishing a book. Right. And, neither of us, I mean, Laura mentioned it, neither of us have ever done this before. Right. She came to me with this amazing idea. I love the book. The first time I read it, there was no way I wasn't going to be a part of it because she's so talented. Laura's one of the most amazing women I've ever met in my life. And so she comes out with this fabulous book, and I could just see it in my head. And I really thought, it would be a lot easier to promote it, and to find a company that would be willing to take a chance. But, there's so many different types of companies out there, and there's a lot of saturation, I guess, in the market, that it's just hard to get noticed. And everything is a learning experience. And I think for us, this was a learning experience. We didn't know anything about publishing. We didn't really know how to get out there. Laura did a lot of wonderful research. I was always gone, always working. So she did a lot of the research for us, in that sense. Companies in general, and like how you even go about trying to promote something and get in contact with these, different agencies, because there's not really a guideline out there of how to navigate the process. And Laura was wonderful. She did a lot of great research. But for us, not really knowing what to do or where to look, it was really hard. And Laura had mentioned, we don't have like a big Instagram following, we're not out there. So nobody knows who we are. And that was really surprising, how difficult it is even just to get in contact with anybody, nevertheless have them call you back.
Just for anyone who's listening who doesn't know this, that's kind of what I'm all about, is providing the resources to other women in aviation who want to tell their stories in whatever way that they want to tell them, to kind of give them stories like yours, and like the other authors. So I have the writers room on the Literary Aviatrix website, where I have a huge collection of interviews just talking about writing and publishing, and recently did a panel interview with, I think, 6 published children's authors who went different routes: traditional, hybrid, and self-publishing. So let's talk a little bit more about that specifically. So Laura, you kind of alluded to, you found this hybrid publisher. You no luck with the traditional publishers, and I've already said my piece about that, about how irritating that is. But hybrid publishing is a great option. You say it sounds like you didn't have a great experience with yours. What did you guys learn? What advice do you have?
No. We narrowed it down to 2. One was out of the UK, and they were about half the cost of Dorrance, who we went with. And I think the biggest thing that I would want to say for people pursuing hybrid is talking to the company. I felt like we were falsely led to believe that like we had this product and they were going to help us like turn it into the book, design teams, just really good with formatting, and they were just going to make it this awesome product. And honestly, what we really got was they put my PowerPoint slide
Yeah.
into a book, and nothing else, with like, to me, crude font. Just It wasn't the touch that I was looking for. I felt like I did it all for them, and then was kind of hamstrung, with the number of pages. It led to a couple of like not so pleasant email exchanges of how I didn't want my 10-page book to have 30 pages, 20 of them blank, because that was the cookie cutter book they wanted to do. Then I got my cover. I got my first book, and there was typos that were new. Like, instead of when she grows up, it was when she groups up in the back. And I'm like, oh,
and then
my
with
gosh.
the illustrations, and the illustrations too. So they asked for, for me to send photos of the illustrations. So I took them outside so they'd have some like lighting, because my house is pretty dark. And I took them on my iPhone, and then I sent them, they asked for the original artwork. So I sent them the books of artwork, and they used the cell phone, iPhone photos that I took, which, and I was like, if I would have known that you're going to use the photos that I'm sending you, because if you're asking for the original artwork, I'm thinking you're going to take professional photos, you're going to vector them, you're going to make them, fit the page. I mean, you could see potentially shadows, if there was a shadow in my photo, because I wasn't taking the picture for it to be the picture for the book. And if I knew that, then I would have used a better camera. I would have sent them in to be vectored. I would have had them done where, they erase the background, and you can see the watercolor paper in the background. And so stuff like that to me, after I worked so hard on those paintings, was very frustrating. Especially after sending them the original artwork. If you're going to take it, I'm thinking you're going to take it and do something with them. So,
and then when we got, 100 copies was the deal with our publisher, which is pretty good, right? We could sell these 100 copies, and that was going to make us back half of our money if we sold those. We needed to sell 200 copies to break even, but we got the first 100 copies. 50 went to Morgan, 50 to me, and the pages were not cut; they were glued together,
and they would tear
the pages.
Oh, wow.
They would tear if you tried to like pull them apart.
Just very poorly.
So just kind of frustrating. And now, if I have I try to do a lot of events. I try to go to museums and schools and do book readings, just to kind of get the word out there. And we're talking 2 months. I actually had to 911 Morgan and was like, "Can you overnight me? I need 9 more books. I just sold 20 and I only have 11, and I ordered them 2 months ago and they're still not here," kind of drama. So I would say, especially after looking at the Hilo girls and the product.
Good. Okay. Good. I was going to ask you what the way forward on this is. That's great.
I think I'm always going to, honestly, I have about 12 other books written that I've done nothing with that I want to keep going with. One is also Aviation OB Helicopter Mom.
Oh, I love it.
Kind of like hover into my daughter's mind to help her make good choices. So I want to move forward, and when I retire, I'll have the time that I need to dedicate to it. But we will be using a different publisher for sure.
Very interesting. Well, thank you guys for sharing that story. It's,
Yeah,
it's important for all of us to learn from
yeah.
our
If I would have
mistakes as
watched
well.
this podcast before doing it, I would have, gone
Yeah,
a different route for sure.
yeah, exactly. And we want to make sure that our ladies, we have so many great ideas out there and so many great books now. I mean, yours, it just adds to a collection. I just wrote my submission for the Women in Aviation International's Aviation for Women magazine. I write their column, the Authors Connect column, and I did a huge list of great picture books that came out
Yeah,
basically in the last year,
yeah,
that gosh, I wish these existed when my daughter was young.
for sure.
I was looking for these books, and so yours just is a huge, wonderful contribution, and I know you're going to contribute so much more with your future books as well. I cannot
Gonna try.
wait.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
cannot
We
wait.
appreciate it.
And Morgan, what are you going to do with this art besides illustrating picture books? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I never really did artwork in my life before. And so when I got out of the Army, it was with the intention. They had at the time this thing called the Overseas Lateral Transfer Scheme, where they were taking US Army helicopter pilots, and you can go get dual citizenship and fly for the Australian Defence Force. And so I had gone through the whole process, flew to Australia, did the interview, got the job. But the process took about a year after you get the job, because you have to go through immigration. And so during that time, I went back to the States. I was staying with my parents, and I was kind of bored. I was traveling and having some fun. I did some overseas trips, hiked the Inca Trail, had a great time. But most of the time I was just kind of sitting around, and I didn't really have a lot to do. So my mom and I went to one of those paint and wine classes, and we had this like fabulous time. And so we went to Michael's and we bought canvases and paint and all this stuff. And we went outside and we tried painting on our own, and it was a disaster. Like, if I could show you the picture that I painted, I mean, it was the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life. And I threw it away because I was so humiliated by it. And so what I did is I started looking at artwork and just copying it and trying to
Mhm.
see what they did. And, so I'd find a picture I like and I would look at it and I'd try to, recreate it. And I was doing that a lot. And then I started getting my own ideas. And then I started to kind of venture off, maybe do a little bit of what I could see, and then add my own little touch to it. And it kind of all turned into me starting to create more original work. And I was having a great time. And right before I was supposed to move to Australia, um, things weren't working out. I was going to go fly the Tiger, which was their version of an attack platform in the Australian Defence Force, and they deemed it combat ineffective, and they were going to scrap the program, and I didn't really know what that meant for me. And so I pulled my application about a month before I was supposed to leave. And then I went into this spiral of, oh my gosh, now what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I was going to do. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go on an adventure and just see where it takes me. So I ended up buying a van, and I took out the middle seats. I put like a OtterBox, not an OtterBox, so they Gorilla boxes in there. I made a bed in the back, and I just hit the road, and I was going to go visit some national parks. I put a bunch of my artwork on t-shirts and mugs, and I filled my car up with, G clays of some of the artwork I had done and t-shirts and all the stuff. And I hit the road and I started driving around the country looking for art shows, visiting national parks. I had no money. I was eating a lot of top ramen. I was traveling with a dog that I rescued. Her name was Amelia. And just kind of living the van life, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was painting. And that's kind of like how it all started. And I was, playing around with oils at that time, playing around with watercolors, playing around with, acrylics, just kind of trying to find the medium that I really enjoyed doing the most. Kicked out oils way too long. I'm very impatient. Um, so, and that's kind of how the whole artwork, part of my life started. And it was while I was living in the van, I came across, I was in the Grand Canyon and I saw helicopters flying and like, wow, I miss this so much. And I realized that I wanted to fly again. So that's kind of how I found my way back to aviation. But then I've just kind of kept painting. I actually have a painting I've got to go pick up. This one is a copy. I found this gorgeous photo of a horse when I was in Park City, and I wanted it, but it was like $20,000. And I was like, I'm just going to paint it. So I painted it. So that's actually what I do now. I just kind of do it as a hobby. I was trying to make it in as an artist, and it's a very hard profession to make it in. So now it's just a hobby. And that was kind of around when Laura reached out to me and asked if I was willing to do a book with her. And it was a great.
I've been seeing her. Like she has a skeleton, like head skull in the Apache helmet with the monocle that we look out of. So I had that on a tank top. She drew like an elephant for my daughter. And then I commissioned her to do a horse picture for me. And I was like, this is going to be perfect.
I need to do that. I'm better now.
I have so much to say. Okay. First and foremost, the whole idea, like I just got a text from one of my buddies who I flew operationally with at my first tour, and he took a break from aviation for a while. And now he's flying tours in the Grand Canyon to just get like some proficiency back, because he's looking at maybe doing some life flight stuff. And I'm kind of like, am I jealous of that? I might be a little bit. I'm not sure. I don't plan to get paid to fly anytime ever again, but there is something about it that is appealing. The very sort of linear long-term planner in me is terrified by you, Morgan, but the artistic side of me is very inspired by you. I actually dabble a little. I have a million ideas for things that I want to see on canvas. And I have made some effort here and there to develop those skills. I do prefer oil because I am patient. It's a little more forgiving too. But I also wanted to say, so you're a huge inspiration for like all of those risks that you took. You really are. You kind of like, I'm living vicariously through you just listening to you talk about it. So I love it. You had the courage that I don't have, and you didn't end up like, tying yourself down in the same ways that I ended up tying myself down. So
and it was like, I feel like we grew up in the Army together. So I just assumed like she had the same skill sets that I possess, right? Because we're doing the same thing. So when she got off the beaten path, one, terrifying. And I'm the same way. I'm a planner. Like, you're not going to catch me like doing some rogue. And she took it to just levels you would never even possibly believe that she could do. And she's so talented. I mean, I remember being in Germany, and I took German in college, like, sling a little Deutsch, but I mean, you go somewhere, she's like fluent, and you're like, I had no, like, one, I've been with you for the last 6 years and I've never heard you speak German, so you're not practicing. And here you are speaking fluently.
Why do you know German, Morgan? Tell us.
So, funny story. When I was 17, my high school basketball team went to New Zealand and Fiji for a summer to play basketball. And on the flight back, there was a German soccer team. And I can sleep on a plane now, but back then I could not sleep on an airplane. So I'm on this 30-hour flight, and I am bored out of my mind. And so there was one of the soccer players. We just started talking, and we became pen pals. And for the next few years, we were pen pals. And then I was going to school in Santa Barbara. Wasn't really a fan of Santa Barbara itself, and was kind of looking for something else. And I found a study abroad in England, and I was like, oh, what a great idea. So I moved to England, did 6 months in Cambridge, studying like history, European history, British history. Loved it. I love history. And then I wasn't ready to move back to the States. So I swapped schools to a school in San Francisco, and that was going on a trip to Italy the following semester. So then I went to Florence, and I learned Italian, and I studied art history in Florence, and loved it. Wasn't ready to move back to the States. So I dropped out of school completely. I called Christoph, who was the German soccer player, and I said, I want to come to Germany. I've always wanted to learn German. Find me a school. So they found me a language school in this town called Marburg, and I was only going to go for about 4 months. And then I just loved Germany, and I stayed for about 2 years. Not always studying German. I was, 21, I was having a really good time. I had to retake some levels of German. It was like an 8-month course that took me 2 years. But I had a really good time. But it was when I was there, I was in Germany when 9/11 happened. And so that kind of like pushed me back to going back to the States. But so that's kind of how I ended up with German.
Yeah.
Man, you too. I feel so privileged to have gotten to meet you. It's so exciting. I know Cody Bogart is the reason that we connected, right? Because you guys were up at Fort Novacell.
Yep, Fort Novacell.
Fort Novacell, formerly Mother Rucker, together, promoting your books. And so this just is so special. So excited to know you. So you did mention that maybe you guys aren't out there as much on social media, but where are you if we want to follow you and your book and future books? Where can we find you guys?
So I think we're both just individuals on Facebook and Instagram, just, Laura Fryar and Morgan Samuels. And
Okay.
we post all the things we do there. I am going to get better as I have more time, and we'll have websites and do all the things. But as of right now, we're just, two humans who happen to wrote a book. So you can find us on social media, just our personal pages.
Okay. Yeah. And did I send you guys an invite to Verticon?
No.
I'm sorry. I meant to.
What is
We'll forgive you.
So I will be hosting an author event at Verticon, formerly Heli Expo, in early March of next year. And I also coordinate the Authors Connect booth at Women in Aviation International.
So I did apply for that, which I actually think I'm in the field. But Morgan, we can maybe send Morgan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Either one of you, both of you would be awesome. Yeah. I cannot wait to meet you guys in person, have a beverage together, see some of these pictures that weren't appropriate for, and some of the stories that weren't appropriate for prime time.
There's a lot of them.
I can't wait. It's such a pleasure to get to know you. Congratulations on this book. I know it's going to inspire some young people. It's and for all of the self-criticism that you gave and the concerns about the publishing, the copy that I got is beautiful, and I'm proud to display it at my Girls in Aviation events. And so I'm really excited to just see everybody get this book and for things to take off for you guys.
Awesome. We appreciate Thank you so much, Liz, for having us. This was so much fun.
This was fun.
And here I am, I'm ready to go again. I'm ready to say